Hi everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'm joined with Bryce and Jared today from MinuteDock, and we're going to go through, look at MinuteDock, do a demo. Everybody loves a good demo, so we like things practical at XU Magazine. So we're going to do a good demo today, show their integration with Xero, and then answer any questions that you've got as well. So before we do that, let's just do a bit of housekeeping. Let's just make sure that everybody's jumping on okay. They can see us, hear us, we're working. It's always a good start. So if you've just jumped on, I can see quite a few people coming through. Just put something in the chat box. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're listening from. It's always interesting to see how much of a global audience that we've got. If you're like me in the UK and you're just about waking up still, then good morning. I'm guessing most of you are probably from other parts of the world. As we're going through the webinar today, oh, hi Heather from Melbourne. So I'm just getting rid of my pop-ups. Hi Matt as well from Australia. So we've got a pretty good Australian audience with us today. Hi Josie as well from South Australia. As we're going through the webinar today, please feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A box to put any questions in. We are going to have a Q&A section at the end as well. So throughout the webinar, you might get a few answered, but we'll make sure we get everything wrapped up at the end as well. So if you have got any questions, you won't go away unanswered. We are recording the webinar as well, and we will follow up with an email afterwards. So if you have to jump off for any reason, we'll make sure you get a recording sent across with some useful links as well that you can also share with your colleagues and other people that might find it relevant if they can't make it on today. So thanks for jumping on today. My name's David from XU Magazine, and I'm joined by Bryce from MinuteDock, who I'm going to hand over to now to do an introduction about himself, because he'll do a much better job than I will, and about MinuteDock as well. Over to you, Bryce.
Great, thanks. Yeah, hi, my name's Bryce. I'm the Customer Success Manager at MinuteDock. Working and joined today by my older brother, Jared, who is the founder, or co-founder and current CEO of MinuteDock. There we go, I'll just share my screen from a demo later. So MinuteDock, generally speaking, is a time tracking service for billing. We sort of designed and founded on the principles of making things as easy, as intuitive, and as quick as possible. A sort of less is more kind of philosophy, where we don't want to have time tracking, I guess, create more workload rather than alleviate your workflow. We are designed primarily around billing, time tracking for billing, as I say. So professional service industries, your bookkeepers, accountants, lawyers, etc., are generally the kinds of industries that will find the way MinuteDock is organized and structured suits them the best. Generally speaking, we are not a sort of time and attendance type system. So, you know, retailers, things like construction, etc., are probably not going to get best value out of us. We are focused on those who are looking for time tracking in terms of the nitty-gritty sort of detail, both for billing and for their own sort of productivity and reporting. So today what we're going to do is give a pretty sort of general a demo of how the actual time tracking system itself works, and we're going to focus on how MinuteDock integrates with Xero to streamline the billing process and make things easy in terms of turning time tracked into invoices and getting those out through Xero. So we'll start off with this demo account here. I've just logged in. This is what you'll see the first time you log in. You'll be on this page. There's a couple of sort of leftover things from last time, but the first thing you're generally going to want to do as a Xero user is you're going to want to set up your integration with Xero and pull across those customer contacts and details from Xero so that you can later record your time against them in MinuteDock. So we'll start off with that. We'll go to our account section here, and we'll head to our connection settings. And it is going to be as simple as just selecting Xero, clicking connect, and allowing access. And what's going to happen is that our list of contacts that exists within our Xero account, there's a number of them here in this demo, that's going to get pulled through from Xero, and it's going to create within our MinuteDock contacts a set of synced contacts based on that contact list in Xero. So all of these contacts are linked to their counterpart in our Xero account. And when we go later to create an invoice and send it through, that's going to help with our streamlining our billing process. Right, so we've set up our contacts. We want then to start tracking our time. In order to get best use out of our reporting, we're going to want to categorize our time. So we're just very quickly going to make a quick task, which we're going to use in a second to track time against one of our clients. Setting up tasks, pretty simple stuff. You might want to include a description. You can include specific rates for a given task or for a contact, and separate out if you're charging at different rates for different things. You can use that to have flexibility and let yourself not have to muck around with things at the invoicing end and have it all set up according to how you've actually tracked your time. But just as a simple one, we'll go for that. And now we'll go to the dock here. So the time tracking element is really flexible for MinuteDock. You can use a running timer, or you can edit and enter time manually as well. The way it works is pretty simple and pretty familiar. It's going to be very similar to the way you operate your social media stuff. So if I'm wanting to assign a contact to my time entry, I'm just going to use the @ symbol, and I can reduce my list down by continuing on with whatever it might be. And then find the relevant contact, and I can assign that, and there it is, it's assigned now to the entry. And then for my tasks, my projects, my categorizations of the work that I'm doing, I will use the hash key to find those instead. So that's contacts with the @ and then hash for the other labels. And then I can use that task that I've just set up there, a webinar task, and assign that to the entry. If I've forgotten, say, to start an entry and I've realized 10 minutes into doing my work that I needed to start an entry, I can add that 10 minutes on very simply, just using simple text commands. Apologies. I've accidentally docked that. That's my bad. Using simple text commands, you see that 10 minutes got added onto the entry. Or I can go in and actually edit the numbers themselves. And then when I'm ready, or when I've finished sort of doing whatever I want for that work, for that time entry, I might include any sort of text descriptions in in the text box there just to add on any detail that might not be covered just by the simple label. Like so, and I can log my time entry there. It's going to show up in my time list, and you'll see it there with the relevant contact information, and then that highlighted task, what it was. I can always come back and edit the information that's there. I can backdate an entry if I need to. I can change the time, put in some more description if I forgot something, or if I'm switching between tasks, what I can also do is, as an example, if I was switching between tasks, what I can also do is actually return and swap between tasks and return that task to the running timer as I need to record time against it. And if I got distracted and say I had to take a phone call, I could come back afterwards and just keep going with that task as needed. Other than that, the bar itself is pretty flexible, as I said, mentioned that it will recognize simple text commands, things like 1 hour or 10 minutes, so forth. And I can backdate entries actually from here. If I've forgotten to do something on last Monday, I can include a simple command in the brackets, Monday, or just the full date, whatever it might be, today's date, 15/7/21. And in order to backdate that simply, or if that's sort of difficult to think about and get your head around, which often it is, I can go into the list and just use the calendar to backdate an entry after I've logged it to make sure that I'm recording my time for the correct date. And if I've forgotten to record something that I should have really done a few days ago, I can go back and then do that. So once I've recorded my time, and I'll just quickly put in a couple of extra entries here. Once I've recorded my time, I've done my work, obviously I want to bill my clients. And that's what we're going to do now. So we'll go to the invoices section. And you'll see here that the time that I've been recording against my clients is showing up here. We'll use this Hamilton Smith as our example. We'll click in there. It's going to give us an option. So we can choose to go for every uninvoiced entry that we've got that hasn't been part of an invoice yet and is on the account, or I can be more custom and use the various filters to pick out the right time entries. If I want to invoice based on a particular project or a set of tasks, if I want to exclude, say, any meetings from this invoice and only include the admin work, then I can do that. Or I can just use the all uninvoiced and get everything that has yet to be charged into that invoice. If I've got a number of projects or tasks, well, projects, which is another label, it works similarly to tasks, but a project is based on a particular client. If I've got a number of projects against a specific client, that's going to give me a couple of options. Instead of just being all uninvoiced or a fully custom one, it might say, well, I've got 3 hours against X project or against Y project. Would you like to invoice based on just this project? That'll be another option that'll come up depending on how you've categorized the time that you've recorded. Once I've got the right time identified that I want to be invoicing for, I'll go next, and the system's going to create and generate invoice lines based on the time entries that I have selected for this invoice. Initially, what's going to happen is that it will just create a line essentially for every time entry. What I'll do then is use the filters and the formatting options to decide what information I want to include within the invoice lines. So if I want to include the dates that the work was done and include descriptions that I've added into the entries, I can do that. I can also decide whether I'm going to group. If I have multiple time entries, say under that webinar task, I can select to group by task and lump all the works that's labeled under that webinar or admin task into a single line to make things quicker in terms of organizing my invoice. And then obviously the other thing I can do is set for my Xero settings. I can set a default account, which can be done in my specific task settings. If I had set, say, the task webinar to be default to other revenue, then it would initially show up here as other revenue. Obviously, it's set defaulting to sales currently. I can also use Xero items and have a default for a given task or project, which would then show up. And then it's flexible in terms of not just using the generalized grouping options, but I can create new lines if I need to, if there's a piece of fixed work that I'm not necessarily just going to send through my time entries as part of the invoice, but I want to create a line for a fixed fee item, then I can do so. Or I can choose to merge various lines together just in order to keep things clean and simple. And once I've got it looking like how I want it, I will go to the next step. Right, so it's going to give us here just a sort of final overview of how the lines on the invoice are looking. It's going to give us a couple of options in terms of the currency we're looking to invoice in, any reference that we want to add, and the date that we're going to assign to that invoice. Once I like how it's looking though, I can click my Send to Xero option, which is there because I've linked to my Xero account. And in a moment, it's going to say, there we go, that it's been sent to Xero. I can use the Take a Look button here. As long as I'm logged into Xero already, it's just going to take me straight to a draft invoice, which is ready in Xero. It'll have whatever sort of Xero defaults or templates or setup that you've got on your account will be applied to the draft invoice. It can be edited further if I need to. If there's something, for example, I wanted to change a branding or alter the dates or anything like that. And then once it's ready to go, I can send it through from Xero and then use Xero for what it's for in terms of the accounting software and keeping track of making sure things are paid, etc. And getting things all handled from an accounting perspective. So I've sent that through to Xero. What's happened now in MinuteDock is if I go back to my invoices, the time that I've included on that invoice, and this is even if I say I've included a bunch of time entries and then actually gotten rid of the lines themselves on the invoice. But I just wanted to, I'm say charging for that time, but I've adjusted manually the pricing or the lines themselves. because it's a fixed item. Those time entries, if they've been included in that invoice, are not going to be appearing now in my work, which is to be billed. Instead, they have been tagged as being billed and removed from that pool. And when it comes to differentiating, I guess, between billed and unbilled time, like in the reports, and figuring out how much have I actually billed and how much is the value that I have to bill, but have done the work for. That's available in the reports section to differentiate between those two options. And speaking of reports, you'll no doubt, as you track time, be wanting to look at the way you're spending your time, to judge things like productivity, to identify areas where your time might be getting wasted or could be put to better use, and to identify sort of efficiency targets and ways in which you can improve your workflow. You can use your report section to get a good grasp of how your time tracking is going, to report on the time tracking data that you've entered into the system. The filters are very flexible. I can differentiate between specific sets of time against a given user. If I wanted to take a look at what an employee had done across the last week, for example, and keep on top of things, I can do that. I can differentiate between what client I'm looking to report against. If I'm just looking at the work done over the last month for a given client for a given project, or if I'm looking, say, for more general things, those tasks, like I'm wanting to know how much time is being spent on general admin, which might not necessarily be billable time. That might be something I look at, keep track of, and to think about where I can minimize the time being spent on unbillable tasks. So depending on how you've set up your filters, you'll get your report come through. And if I just take a look at all time for this demo account, just to get a few time entries included, it'll come in here. It'll tell me whether I've got hours that are set as unbillable. That's a setting that's in the tasks or projects or clients. If I can select whether a given work entry or a task or a project is billable time and needs a rate applied to it, or is not billable, and therefore should be set at 0. And then we've got our estimated billable amounts there, based obviously on the relevant currencies that I've applied to a given context or a task. If I've got clients that I'm working for and charging different currencies, that estimated billable amount is based on the time entries themselves, not the invoices that get sent through. So it is, if there's changes that get made when it comes to invoicing, if there's adjustments that get done in terms of swapping some rates or applying a discount on the standard setup rates that you have applied to a given task or a project or client, this number here is not going to necessarily reflect that. It's going to reflect the initial estimated amount that generally you would consider your work worth, and then obviously can be compared to the numbers you actually get from your Xero end of things in terms of payments, and you can see whether you might be inadvertently giving away too many discounts or etc. Otherwise, we can look through the reports. There's a few different charts available to split up based on our categories and give us an indication of say, which contacts or clients are the most work is being done for, who's doing more work or less, and which tasks are taking up the bulk of our work. We can export our reports into CSV files, spreadsheet files. We can get a full export using the button over here, or we can export based on the charts by just hovering over them and clicking on the download file. And that'll maybe sometimes keep the data a little more readable. The full export is going to export a spreadsheet file containing our data on the entire list of time entries, rather than segmented in the way that these charts are. And other than the charts, I can, when I'm doing my reports, something that's quite useful for administrators sometimes who need to go in and just make sure things are the right sort of things are being applied, etc. I can look at a list of time entries, and that list is going to include not just my own time entries, but depending on the filters that I've applied for my reports, it can be a list of everyone's time entries, which I can then go through and make sure that the right tasks or the right dates, etc., are being used on the time entries, and just make sure that things are chugging along as they should be. If there is a set of data that I like to look at regularly, if at the end of every week I want to see a given report based on the similar contacts or projects, if I'm wanting to look at, say, an admin report every week, I can set up those filters once, and then what I can do is, if I've got a last week setting and my admin task, I can pin that selection of the filters and create a little button in here, which would then let me, instead of having to go through and set up the filters every time I do anything, I can go and click on that, and I know that that's my weekly admin report. And I can quickly jump in and just take a look, rather than having to fiddle with the various options every single time I go to do that. And then one last thing to go over, I guess, for when it comes to reports, when it comes to sort of tracking productivity, or particularly actually useful for when you're recording time and you're charging at a fixed price, but you're looking to sort of budget the actual work hours that you spend on a given task. You can use the goals section here to set up targets or budgets that are based on hours, your time resource, rather than monetary amounts. And so I can say, if I'm looking to reduce my admin, the time I spend on admin, and I try to budget that time and say, well, look, I want to only ever spend 5 hours a week on admin. I can use my filters, make sure that it's just my admin task set, and I can create a goal. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a visual indication on my main time page of how I'm going against that budget over a week. So you'll see as I've recorded 2 hours against my admin task, it's going to show up there and say, look, you've spent 2 hours out of the 5 you've assigned for your weekly budget. Useful as well, just to keep track of more broad things like the amount of work you're recording in a day or a week, to give yourself an indication of, oh, whoops, I must have forgotten to record something because I haven't filled out my full 8 hours for the day, and just to keep on top of things that way. Generally, the budgets, the targets, they won't prevent you from recording time. If I go over this, admin budget, I'm allowed to do so. It's just going to give me a visual indication of things. It's not going to prevent me from actually tracking my time. Right. Now I think, just because I don't think I really covered the idea behind projects very much previously, I'll just wrap up by quickly going over the idea of the project. So because a project, we use the same symbol to apply the project as we do for the task. It's the hash code. But a project is a label which is specific to a client. So that might be a sort of long-term overarching category of work that I do for a given client, that I might also then want to subcategorize by using my tasks. But I know that I'm working on a given project, and then I can attach my project to time entries, but then I can also be more specific with my categorization. I can use my tasks. I can use my descriptions, my text descriptions, and then when I want to see the work done on that project as a whole, rather than getting into the nitty-gritty and seeing the details more specifically down to those tasks, that project label lets me get a broader overview of things when necessary. So only one project can be applied to a time entry, but you can use the task label and apply as many different tasks as you like to a time entry. Okay, I think we've covered a good general overview of things. I'm sure there are some questions to go over. So why don't we have a look at a few of those?
Yeah, thanks for that, Bryce. That was really useful and a good overview. One of the questions that's actually just come into the Q&A box actually that Jared has answered, but I just want to highlight because I'm sure there might be other people in the similar position. So Heather was asking about the time tracking for companies that do fixed billing. So obviously you're not tracking to invoice out, but just keep an eye on things. And Jared was saying, yeah, that's absolutely fine. And I'd recommend people just to have a look in the chat box, and you can see that there. And you can also set up budgets and targets for contacts in terms of what you want to do. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So if I, just as an example, if I go in and look at my contact and use my edit option, I can then go and you'll see here and set myself a budget. Say it's a weekly or a monthly budget of 10 hours. and then I can apologies, clicked my wrong button there. I can set up that budget, as I was saying, put it for X amount of hours. That's going to show up within the actual contact itself. It'll give me a little bar, as well as obviously, as with the other ones, if it's a weekly target against that contact, it's going to, and I'm assigned to it, then it's going to show up here as well. So it's not necessarily the case that you always want to set up a goal or a target just based on a task or a user looking to get X done over the week. You can also do that with the contacts as well.
Bill, that's really useful. And a couple of other questions that have come through is, do you have a mobile app with MinuteDock?
Yeah, we do. We have a mobile app available both on iOS and Android. What I will say about that is that while you can record time entries and edit them on that mobile app, all of the sort of account management, the setting up of contacts of your labels, etc., can't be done from the app itself. It needs to be done from the web browser side of things. But once that's set up, you can definitely use the mobile app to record your time.
Yeah, that's cool. And one of the things I always like to ask, because we are a Xero user mag, but obviously there's lots of other accounting systems out there. So as well as integrating with Xero, do you integrate with any other accounting systems or perhaps any practice management platforms?
We integrate with a few other accounting systems, QuickBooks, MYOB, Sage, or maybe not Sage, actually Wave is what I'm thinking of. You'll see there's a number here, and FreshBooks. So those accounting systems we integrate with, generally not with sort of practice management systems. You can find all our integrations, etc., through the MinuteDock page.
Yeah, that's really useful. So, and one of the things I would like to look at is what the sort of practical next steps. So if people like the look of MinuteDock and they think, I want to give it a go, it looks good, how do they get going? Have you guys got anything like a free trial, or what's the best sort of next steps to give MinuteDock a go?
Yeah, so we do offer a free trial, and we're really flexible about that. We're happy always to give an extension and to give everyone a good lengthy look at how they might use us and whether they'd like to continue. You can go to the minutedock.com site and use the free trial option to sign up. There's no commitments on that. If you find that you don't think we're suitable, then that's fine. At the end of your free trial, you can leave us and go on. Other than that, if you find yourself coming towards the end of your 14 days and you haven't had a real chance to have a look at things, you can get into contact with the support desk, and we can extend that time for you. We're more than happy to do that, to make sure that people get enough time to really mull things over and have a good look before making a final decision.
That's really useful. And I understand, I think we will email some details out about this as well, but have you got an offer running as well at the moment?
Yeah, for Xero users, we're happy to offer a 50% discount on the first 3 months of a subscription. All you need to do is get in touch with the help desk before signing up and going from your free trial to your subscription, and we can apply that for you.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks for that. And I think we've got through all of the questions. So thanks everybody for sending those through. It's always good. Thanks, Bryce, for the walkthrough and the demo. And it's always good when you get to the end and you've not got any technical glitches as well, and that type of thing. And we didn't have a guest appearance from the dog today, so we were laughing.
Yes,
before,
yes.
because
Well,
we all say the animals make their way on somehow, don't they? So
that's right.
But no, thanks again for that, Bryce. That's really useful. Thanks to everybody for jumping on today. Like I said, we'll send across a recording of this and a follow-up email with some useful links in the next sort of 24 to 48 hours. And please feel free to share that as well with any sort of colleagues or anybody else that you work with that might find it useful. Have a great rest of your day and catch you next time.